I didn't think they would. I still don't really like Citadels as a 2 or 3 player game. I think last time I've played Citadels as a 2-player game must be something like 10 or 12 years ago.
Just to make sure it worked, right?
Yeah, something like this. But I like Citadels with, I say, 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And with Lost Temple, it was a bit the same. Publisher told me, okay, we want a 2 or 3 players rule. I say, okay, what works in Citadels ought to work here. Let's try. It works. Maybe even a bit better. But I'd say it's the same with Lost Temple and with Citadels. I'd rather play them with 4 or 5 players. I think the interaction is more exciting for me.
No, I definitely agree with you on that. But I do think it's amazing that they work at all as a 2-player game. A role selection game probably just shouldn't work in the slightest bit. But they do because of the bluffing, and it sort of creates a little push your luck element, which is very different than the experience that you get when you play with more players. So I think that was an accident that worked out incredibly well. Because, a lot of people talk that Citadels is a great 2-player game. There's a lot of people on Board Game Geek that say that. So that's, I think, a triumph to how solid the design is, that it works at that number as well. So let me ask you about another game that we're big fans of here, Red November. I think that's the only pure co-op that you've designed, right?
Yeah.
So what was it like designing a co-op game compared to some of these other, game types that you've designed? I think naturally in a co-op, you still have a huge amount of player interaction, but you're all on the same team. What was the challenge like on that one? And where did the idea of drunk gnomes come from? Because that was a heck of a great idea.
Okay, so the story of Red November is fun indeed. I think, I'm not that much fond of cooperative games, but when it started, with Lord of the Rings and then with Shadows over Camelot, I played them a lot. And one day, I think it was in the car driving to Essen together with, I think it was with Serge and Bruno, and also with Jeff, with whom I made Red November. We just thought they were talking about Shadows over Camelot, and we just tried to think of other settings, other themes, other settings where we could have these ideas of, we are all trying to solve some problem. And it was the time of you remember the story about the Kursk, this
Yes.
Russian submarine who was who sank, I think, in the Baltic Sea, and there were about 100 deaths.
Right. And
at this time, one of my gaming friends was Jeff Gontier. I still see him. And Jeff is working, it's supposed to be super secret, but I think it's not super secret anymore. But it's
we hope not, anyway.
the motors of the French nuclear submarines, and so he knows everything about these subs. And then he was here, so we talked about it, and we made it was a joke. And to make this the first prototype of Red November, it was Save the Kursk. And so it was not drunken gnomes, it was a Russian, Russian submariners. And they had, it was not grog, of course, it was vodka, which was a super card that could help you to anything, to make anything. And it was just, you are in a Russian submarine and everything, everywhere is going wrong, and you're trying to solve the problem. And I brought so we made the prototype. It worked very well, I think, almost from the beginning. We brought it to Essen, and a few publishers were interested. But they all thought that it was really very, very, very bad taste, and I think indeed it was.
Yeah, probably a little bit, yeah.
And even all the cards and everything was in very, very bad taste in this game. So, and the guys at Fantasy Flight liked it because, and also they had just published Lord of the Rings, which was selling quite well. They wanted another cooperative game. So they wanted to publish it, but we had to discuss the setting. And they first wanted to get rid of the submarine and make it, spaceship, something like this, keeping the same system, but we're not under the sea, we're in space, and it's a spaceship. There has been games like this since. But with Jeff, we tried to keep the submarine, and in the end, we reached kind of an agreement that, okay, it will be a submarine, but not really Russian. So it's gnomes, even when they have kind of a Russian uniform. So, that's the idea. And so it started really from the event. It started from the sinking of the Kursk, and we wanted to make a game out of it. The timing track was more or less borrowed from Thebes.
Oh yeah,
the game, which has very, very similar time tracking system.
It does, and I love that mechanism. It creates some tension because you can literally see your time go away from you as you go through the game, which I really like. Bruno, I want to hear all about how you got to design games with other people, what makes that really interesting for you, and what you have coming up next, as well as some of the games that you have out now and some of your classic games. But for that, we're going to have to wait until next week. So patience, everybody. Come back next week and hear part 2 of the fantastic interview with Bruno Faidutti. Let me tell you about something the Horsey Avengers always wanted, and that is her very own Zeppelin.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I mean, yes.
Exactly.
I've always wanted my own
And if
Zeppelin.
you have wanted to be your own Zeppelin pilot, you can do this. And the new game from Mage Company up on Kickstarter right now called Aether Captains.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be either or, But Aether Captains, yeah, that was a bad joke. Aether Captains is a game for 1 to 5 players.
Okay.
30 to 60 minutes, ages 13 and up.
Okay.
Here's the cool thing about this. When you talk about Kickstarters, you're always like, oh, we don't know where this thing's going to be at. This thing funded in 6 hours.
Wow.
So as of today, which is April 22nd, there's 17 days to go in this campaign, and it's already it's $900 short of double funded. So they're already unlocking a ton of stretch goals.
That's pretty amazing.
Yep. And this is going to be distributed in the United States by Ninja Division. So you'll be able to get quick, easy shipping on your Kickstarter order. If you're going to Essen or some of the other major cons in the fall, you'll be able to pick up your game there and get 0 price shipping.
Right, because you're picking it up.
Because it's free. As a bird.
As a bird?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like a Zeppelin in the sky. Okay. So Aether Captains has a ton of stuff in the package. You get a bunch of plastic Zeppelins in different player colors. You get special custom dice. There's beautiful looking tiles to make your board. The board will be different every time. They've got some expansions for sale up on the Kickstarter, so you can get everything you need to have a lifetime supply of Aether. And if your engine won't start, you just spray some starting Aether in there. No? Same stuff, different stuff.
I don't know.
Anyway. With the Kickstarter, you have some Kickstarter exclusive content, reduced shipping fees, deep discounts, asymmetric gameplay, different roles for the different players, always a fun thing, solo rules, which you would think for sure by the fact it's 1 to 5 players, but there are specific solo rules that they have written. So if you're a solitaire gamer, this one's got your name written all over it.
Right.
So go to Kickstarter.com. Search for Aether Captains, Aether Captains, from Mage Company and Ninja Division. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. Cardboard Insanity's Game of the Week. It's Game of the Week time.
All right.
Yes, and our Game of the Week is a game that, to me, is a throwback to old school game design and the kind of game you don't see people design anymore. And I don't know why, but let's get this out of the way right now. I'm a little mad about it.
I can tell you're
Yeah.
pretty intense.
Well, that and I was just singing Piano Man 30 seconds before we started
I know,
recording.
I was
and
really
I'm very
worried.
fired up by Billy Joel now.
I was really
Let's not even
concerned.
start talking about Prince because so help me God, if Purple Rain comes on, there's going to be tears, be large man tears. Anyway.
You do have purple headphones on.
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
So, yeah. There's doves out there
Shut
crying.
up. Can't take it. And now I know what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Listen, Warehouse 51.
Okay.
That's what we're talking about here.
Okay.
Not Prince, sadly. There's no Prince board game, although there really should be.
There really should be.
Warehouse 51 from Funforge and Passport.
Yes.
And we've dealt with a couple games from this combination of Funforge and Passport Design Studio. Samurai Spirit amongst them.
Which was a very, very fun game.
Certainly was. And this game is no exception to the good luck that we've had from that company, that pairing. Warehouse 51 is an old school auction game. And if you didn't know better, you could think this was a classic era, I'll call it that, Kinesia design or something else similar to that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and you haven't had as much experience with that as I have. But this is a game to me that feels like it should have been designed 10 years ago. And I love that because people don't make auction games anymore. They don't make this sort of old school, less is more design aesthetic. And this is a very Bruno Faidutti type design. Now, you haven't heard this in the interview yet, but trust me, Bruno is a very less is more sort of designer. And I know his role in this game wasn't as big as some other games, but he's the lead designer listed on this. So maybe he had more input than he was telling me about.
Yeah.
At any rate, this game feels like him because there's a minimum to components, there's a minimum to rules, and the player interaction is what really drives this game.
Yes,
And
that's
it's got
true.
one of my favorite mechanisms in it, and that is a closed economy. And that money or resources never come into the game. There's a way that they can here, but they never go back out. And the money or commodities just sort of shift around, which creates a really interesting dynamic and some timing. So before we get into those wonderful things, let's talk a little bit about the basics of the game.
Okay.
3 to 5 players. Plays in about 30, 40 minutes. I think we played 2 games in an hour once.
Yeah,
and that was 4-player. So again, the game plays 3 to 5. Unfortunately, there's no 2-player, and the way the economy works in this game, it's just frankly not possible, which is sort of a bummer because we would play this game a lot more given the opportunity.
I just said that I would love to play this game more.
So each player gets a player board, and they're identical. There's no special powers on the player boards, and there are 4 different decks of cards in the game. There are the red, yellow, green, and blue artifacts. So the red deck has 5 cards. Yellow deck has 6 cards. Green deck has 7. And blue deck has 8. In addition to that, there's a deck of counterfeits. So every card, with the exception of, I believe there's 2 or 3 that can never be counterfeit, but all the other cards have a corresponding counterfeit card. And what's going to happen is, depending on player count, between each of the players, there will be 1 or 2 cards from the counterfeit deck put face down. That means you will know a few of the cards during the game that are counterfeit. And a counterfeit card will not score for you in any sort of way at the end of the game. In a 3-player game, there's 2 cards placed between each player. A 4 or 5-player game, it's 1. So at the beginning of the game, you will look at the cards that are to your left and right. And you have to remember, because you're not allowed to look again.
Right.
Easier said than done. And during the course of the game, you'll try to avoid those or trick other people into bidding for them. That's part of the game. And I love that it's there from the very instant that the game starts. The game plays very simply. One player will flip over a card of their choice from one of the 4 decks of cards. And it will be an artifact. The cool thing is the artifact will have one of 2 different kinds of auctions on it. Either it will be a standard go around the table and increase bids till everybody but one player has passed, or it will be a closed-fisted simultaneous blind bid. And you don't know until you flip the card.
Right.
So that's kind of fun because it keeps you on your toes. Either way you do the auction, once a winner is determined, the winning bid is paid to the player to the winner's left. So in a 3-player game, if the Horsey Avenger was on my left and Squeaky Bandanas was on my right, exactly as we're sitting right now, I win a bid, the Horsey Avenger gets my money.
I like that.
So
That's the way it should be.
But you make more than me.
Well, because you give me your money.
This is like the mafia. Is there a German mafia?
I'm sure there is.
All right, focus.
Yeah. Okay.
Man, there's got to be jokes to be made there, but I'm not going to make any of them. So suffice it to say, the money stays in the game. It doesn't get paid into a bank. It stays in here. And that creates this